On Monday, November 4th, we were hit with a pretty significant storm. This is likely to be one of the many winter storms we will be getting this year, and this was a fairly significant one. We sustained winds upwards of 120 kilometers per hour with winds that were the strength of a Category 1 hurricane. From what I've heard, this may have been the worst windstorm to hit the coast of BC since 1984. With those winds, it brought some damage and many power outages with over 100,000 customers without power, with many that will stay out for the next days to come. This storm got progressively stronger throughout Monday morning, getting to its strongest point around 10:30 a.m. Now, where I'm going to start today's video is taking a look at a house. This is a friend of the family's house where across the road a tree came down onto the primary voltage power lines. Now, there's a lot more to it than just having some power lines knocked down, and that's where we're going to begin. So let's take a look at what's happened here. So first things first, the reason I was here was to kind of take a look and just see what I could figure out as far as damages. I'm not going to be the one doing the work, as it's going to need more than just one person, and it's also going to need a licensed insured company, as this is going to be involving insurance companies and pulling permits and getting utility reconnections and disconnections. So I'm not here to touch anything or deal with it. I was just called to come look and see what sort of damages there is and see where is the next place to go with this. So I was allowed through the closed area of the road by the police and fire department to assess what had happened here. So that's where I started taking pictures. So the first thing to look at here is you can see this tree has fallen across the road. Now, while that tree fell, it landed on top of the 14,400 volt / 25,000 volt power lines. That's 14,400 each phase to ground or neutral, and between phases you get 25,000 volts, just like your scaled down version of 120/208 or 347/600, 277, 480, etc. The reason I'm telling you the voltage is that is an important fact of what happened here with this situation, because when the tree fell on those power lines, it did not only pull them down, but the power lines stayed energized until, well, what took them out? And what took them out was, unfortunately, the customer's triplex. So when the tree fell on these and pulls these lines down, it actually snapped the cross arm off the pole and brought these 14,400 volt conductors, pulled them down into the triplex feeding this home, and they just happened to make contact with the central part of that triplex, the neutral supporting, and that then brought 14,400 volts into the customer's home on their neutral conductor. So upon first arrival, I had not realized how bad the situation here actually was before I got into the house. I thought that the only issue was that these conductors did land on the triplex, putting way more tension on it than it was meant, and I figured it had just either pulled them off the house, or when I actually got there, I realized that the only actual damage on the outside of the house was the Emily knob had been broken, or the clevis that supports the triplex. There's a million names for them, and that was apparent. You can see the neutral is just hanging on the hook. The actual porcelain part is cracked on the ground. It should be replaced, but not a major deal. The other end of the triplex is the part that actually pulled off of the 12208 lines, or sorry, 12240 lines on the pole. So I hadn't quite yet put a whole lot of thought as for the inside of the house. I had obviously recognized it fell in the triplex, and I wouldn't even say I really did think about it, but I guess if I was thinking anything, I thought that it had just shorted to that neutral, and that multi-grounded system would have blown the fuses to that primary, not thinking about what that would have done in the house, as it's going to take all paths it can to a different potential, and that it did. When that 14,400 volts went into the neutral, it also went through their entire neutral / grounding system as it's bonded together. So everything in the house that has a neutral and ground also would have momentarily had 14,400 volts on it. Luckily, no one was injured. Obviously, the chances of this happening are extremely thin, but if someone was handling a piece of equipment, I think that could be dangerous, especially if it's something bonded where its actual outer casing becomes energized. That is pretty scary. So you can see here with this receptacle is what I'm thinking happened is it looks to be more on the hot side of the receptacle, which makes sense because the neutral on the left side and the box itself should both theoretically be at that 14,400 volt. The only thing at a different potential was the hot conductor, which I think where that arc and jump from that electricity would have occurred. Here is the almost brand new dryer, which obviously this, like pretty much every other appliance, is probably going to be done after this event. And again, it's just very fortunate no one happened to be touching this whole metal machine when that grounded outside of it would have became energized. This is another one of many switches and receptacles that have obviously visual damage where you can see where that arc occurred. Also, light bulbs blew up in the ceiling when this happened. Here is a charger to a JBL boombox. I actually have one of these too, and this actually got shot about 20 feet across the room is what I was told, that they put it back here where it originally blew up. You can see the burn marks up the wall. One of the guys living there also had one of those big JBL party box, whatever the really big one is. The thing was huge, like probably 4.5, 5 feet tall, and just a lot of unfortunate things like that were likely destroyed. They still don't have power back on, so we won't really know the true damage until that. Now the power's not back on because of this being their panel here, where you can see there is burn marks on the wood and burn marks around the cover of the panel, where when this would have been arc flash occurred from this extreme voltage on the neutral, it would have pushed all that out of the panel, where you can see all that heat burn the wood. You can see the TELUS internet equipment over top is also scorched, and they still don't have power on because when this happened, this tripped about half the breakers in the panel as well as tripping the main, and I could not give them an answer for sure, but I did suggest that they do not turn this power back on because you do not know the integrity of the insulation in all these conductors around the house, and also I don't know what this panel is going to provide for overcurrent protection. I have no idea if these breakers have been damaged in this. It's already a Federal Pioneer panel, so it should be replaced anyways, but this is obviously not how you want your panel to go out to get that replacement done. So because I don't know the integrity of the insulation, meaning all that Lumex throughout all the walls in the house, I'm not sure if that insulation has been degraded or burnt or destroyed, as it's obviously only meant for 300 volt. So 14,400 is many times too much. Also, these breakers, I'm not sure if they welded in position in some cases or how their functionality would work. So I just advise don't turn anything back on, get things properly replaced, and at least checked on and documented for insurance purposes. Now I can already see all the comments coming about, oh, they should have had a surge protector, and that was one of the things they asked too, is would a surge protector have helped? And I said probably not, and I don't think it would have. I think even a whole home surge protector would not have made a single difference here, as those are connecting to each of your hotlines, each lig, and basically if there's an excess in voltage on either of those, it essentially drains it to ground/neutral, giving it a path to go other than to your equipment. That's for protecting the more common types of surges, is an excess voltage on your hotlines. However, they do not protect the neutral. Actually, they're using that neutral to give a path for that excess voltage to go. And in this case, the surge of voltage, huge surge, was on the neutral, so I don't think they would have helped. But let me know what anyone that has information on that, what you guys think. So before we move on to the next craziness of the day, which don't worry, there's more, here we have a closer look at where you can see two of those primary conductors landed on the triplex, ripping the triplex off of its connection to the rest of the secondary side. And you can see some burn marks on it where it made contact. You can also see the tie wire up in the top left where it was originally connected to the insulators on top of the crossarm. So here's a clip I have from this location before we move on to the next part of the video. Tree came down there, took out the primary, ripped it off the top of that pole, and the primary is sitting on the triplex and has put 14,400 volts into the neutral and fried almost everything in the house. Well, from what I can tell, it's not good. And now I went for a ride on my electric scooter heading down to the university, and I wanted to see how their generators were going and their power, if stuff was on, and I didn't make it very far. Well, I was just gonna ride down to see the generator running down here. I'm sure you guys already know, but it's been a crazy day. Winds actually exceeding the strength of a Category 1 hurricane, and that took this tree down here, and there's a street lamp on the road here, and that pulled that off of that tree, pulled the triplex off. I'm assuming this could still, these are controlled by photocells, so this would be de-energized now, but this will come on later on. Complete mess, over 120 km/h winds apparently, so I can't get down this way because we've got a tree across the road. I did manage to get my scooter over top of the triplex, so I'm going to continue down here. So much debris out here. Probably actually not a good idea to be in this forest area with how much stuff's been falling down. Just came back from a friend of the family's house where the 14,400 volt line landed on their neutral of the triplex and pretty much blew up everything in their house. It's really, this is a pretty bad storm today. Really quiet generator down here, running these buildings down at a university near my house. Down here it looks like this is a lift station. Generators running. This whole campus right now is running on generator power. Everything that's got it, they're pretty good actually. They've got lots of generators, probably 4 or 5 of them or so. The wind's died down now. I should mention too, if you're thinking like, what storm are you talking about? The storm's pretty much gone. It literally just went away probably within 30 minutes, left a huge mess, and then got sunny out. Okay, whole nother section here with power lines down again. I'm back over here. Looks like these did have a photocell on them. Not anymore. They should probably have some caution tape up here, because they have the road blocked off at one spot, but there's more entrances than that. I'm not sure if they realize that this also came down, especially if you don't have street lighting anymore, because that, I mean, I would hope they'd shut it down for safety reasons. You don't want energized triplex, even if it's only 120. Could be 600 too, I'm not sure. My old high school here, power's been out all day here as well. You can hear generators running. It's now 5:14, sun's going down, so let's see how this mess is still on. Power's been out since about 10-ish, 10 to 10:30 a.m. today, so it's been quite a while, and I don't think they've made really any progress with getting stuff back on. I mean, a lot of these outages still don't even have crew assigned to it. Some have crew on site, but they haven't given an estimated on time, so it's still a mess out there. Now, if you're wondering about the power at my house, no, it never went out, and of course it didn't. I was the one little tiny area, there's probably 500 feet either direction, where the power wasn't out. If you look at the outage map, it's all red area except for my one road. I'm telling you, my one road was it for probably 5 kilometers each direction. That's just my luck. As a small young kid, I remember the power going out all the time. When I was just been born, where the power was out for like 4 or 5 days straight, huge storm. And now that I've got generator, emergency light, UPSs already, my power never goes out. That's my old high school there. And that's about all the light that's on down here. Not sure how much fuel that generator's gonna have left. We might have a repeat of a few years ago when we ran out. Because once again, the electrical department has said the generator's down to 60%. It should be topped off for the next outage. Does it get refilled? Nope. Dark neighborhood, you can see the bright downtown across, and the emergency lighting, the essential lighting in the school, which will also go dark eventually if this stays out with the current fuel levels. The amount of honking going on over there is crazy. People that don't know how to use an intersection as a four-way stop when the lights are out. There's my old school over there. You can see it's pretty dark. Not a lot for me to show. When the power's been out for this long, there's not emergency lighting to show anymore. Riding my scooter around. I got to the intersection first. I stopped. It's a four-way stop, guys. It's not that hard. Yeah, the dude just completely went right in front of me, and I screamed at him and told him some things I won't repeat. Let's see how many people do not know how to use a freaking intersection. Another idiot doesn't stop. I don't know where people get their driver's license. Another pump house right here. Yeah, you can go, man. No one's coming. Okay, I've headed back out for a little loop again. We're now 10 hours into the power outage. So it's looking pretty freaking dark out here now at this point. any battery emergency lighting is now dead. So it's just generators left now. The generator is still, the emergency generator is still keeping the emergency lighting and life safety going in the school. I don't know how much longer, because it started at 64% today when the power first went out at 10:30 a.m. and it was down to 32 when I came by and visited, and that was at 3:30, and it's now 8:40, 8:50-ish. So I doubt it can possibly go for that much longer. You can see the emergency lighting in the atrium just a little bit, but it's enough, keeping it plenty bright in here. Security system is now dead because it's not on generator for some stupid reason. Well, we're now nearing 11 hours in, and I don't know what the fuel level is at. I can't imagine it's very high. I doubt this thing's going to be running for that much longer, but it's kind of chilly out here. I don't really want to stay out here too much longer. I can't tell which area this is in. I checked the power provider's website, and on the outage map, there's two that are overlapping in this general area. One's affecting 2,500 customers, one's affecting just over 3,000, and one of them says crew are assigned, but they're not on site yet, so they won't even get an estimated on time until they're on site. And the other one, they're on site and they're giving an estimated on time within the next half an hour. But like I said, I'm not sure which one this building is in. How about it? I was just driving back here and power flicked on. Yeah, so in a little bit. Actually, let's watch the emergency lights flip off of emergency. Because they'll stay on generator for a little bit, and then the emergency lights will switch back over. So you'll see the neutral delay is a few seconds. That's actually, maybe I'm best to watch the stairwell, since the stairwells are pretty much all generator powered. So watch the stairwells. That's that green section on the left and the right. And after a couple minute delay, maybe a minute or so, those lights will switch back over to utility power. Everything in the classrooms on utility power, but all the emergency loads are currently still running on generator, as there's a timer before switching back to make sure utility is stable. So any minute here, we should see that switch back. That was right place at right time. I was just about to get out of here. And then, after a little longer than that, the generator will shut down completely. It'll run a little bit without any load on it first. I've got videos on all this of me testing the system back when I worked here. There we go. So there's your neutral delay, so you can hear the load get let off the generator. So the generator will now run a couple minutes, no load on it, because it's been running for 10 hours. And depending on how it was loaded, probably wasn't that close to being pushed to the max, because this generator is designed to run the big fire exhaust fans in the atrium, so just the lighting isn't much. However, that doesn't mean it couldn't be done, so it's got to be set up for worst case scenario, where it'll stay running, where worst case scenario it's been running 10 hours straight, or even longer, could be 24 hours straight at 100% load. And with that said, that turbo would be really hot if it's working hard. You don't want to shut down a red hot turbo. It'll seize in place. So hopefully they do refill the generator after this one, because I cannot imagine. You know what? There's beeping. That's probably low fuel beeping. I almost guarantee you that's generator low fuel. I bet if we check the fire alarm panel, even though power's back on, it's probably in trouble. Let's run around to the front and check that. Yeah, so even though power's back on, if I could actually read that, I think it says generator trouble. All right, so next day here, I'm editing the video, and it turns out that definitely was low fuel, that the generator was down to 8% fuel left, so I'm thinking it probably comes on 10 to 20% or less is low fuel. So I was right, that thing was just about out of fuel. So now it's the next day, and most of the power is back on. There was actually still 2 schools last night or today I should say, that never had power brought back on. One of them had a manually starting generator, so they were fine, but the other one, that school was closed for today. So there's still lots of little power outages here and there. That was a pretty bad storm. It left a pretty big mess. That house that I was at, the rest of the neighbors have power back on, but that actual house does not, for the reasons I mentioned earlier. So I'm not sure what's going to happen there, but hopefully they get that all sorted out, and best of luck to them with getting that all figured out. So that's what insurance is for covering these sort of unexpected problems like that. Definitely not a good thing to have happen. But anyways, guys, that's going to be it for this one. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you're interested, check out my Instagram account. I've got 2 of them. I've got one at Pickle700 for bonus content, stuff posted earlier than you'd see it on the YouTube channel, that sort of thing. And then I've also got another one, which is called Nick's Planes and Aviation. It's where I've got some of my other interests, like airplane pictures and aviation posts on that one. So if you're interested, make sure to check those ones out. If you do enjoy the channel, make sure to subscribe. And yeah, that's all I got for this one. So yeah, thanks for watching.